Before anything else, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot to keep this content reaching you every day and make sure you don't miss any important updates about Manchester City. Now then, let's get into the news. Full attention, City fan, because the scenes behind the club are more hectic than they look at first glance. While a lot of people only look at the results on the pitch, away from the cameras there's intense movement involving the market, planning, and decisions that could directly impact the team's future. And today we're going to go through all of it calmly, without hiding names, without beating around the bush, and with proper context. Because understanding what's happening right now is crucial to understanding where City can get to over the next few months. In the last few hours, one specific topic has started to gather momentum among journalists and club decision-makers: Fulham's concrete interest in Oscar Bobb. This isn't empty speculation, and it isn't baseless dressing room chatter. According to information that lines up closely with what's being tracked in the market, Fulham have opened official talks with Manchester City to try to sign the Norwegian winger for a fee in the region of $35 million. That's not small money, especially for a young player who is still in the process of properly establishing himself in English football. That kind of move doesn't come out of nowhere. It's usually built over time, with discreet inquiries and a careful reading of the situation. And when you look closely at Oscar Bobb's season, it starts to make sense. His talent has never been questioned inside City. Since arriving very young from Vålerenga in 2019, Bobb has always been seen as a technical, intelligent player with good game awareness and the ability to decide things in tight spaces. In several moments, especially in the academy and in his early contact with the first team, he made it clear he had something different. The problem is that talent in Pep Guardiola's Manchester City doesn't guarantee automatic minutes. The competition is brutal, the standards are extremely high, and any small dip in performance matters. This season, Bobb has had opportunities, but they've been more spaced out than ideal for a player who needs a run of games to build confidence. He has started only 5 Premier League matches, a number that, for someone trying to cement himself, becomes frustrating. And that situation became even more delicate with the arrival of Antoine Semenyo. The signing of the player from Bournemouth for a big fee completely changed the picture on the wings. Semenyo arrived with status, strong physicality, immediate impact, and naturally began competing directly with Bobb for space. For Pep, who needs players ready to respond in big matches, the balance ended up tilting towards whoever delivers more intensity in the short term. As a consequence, Bobb began to see his minutes reduced. Even when he came on, it was often in difficult contexts, with little time to show what he can do, and that chips away at any young player's confidence. Even more so in a squad that competitive. The numbers help illustrate the difficulty. Across the whole season, he has 15 appearances in all competitions with only 9 starts. And despite the effort, his direct impact in goals and assists has been below what was expected. One moment that symbolized this complicated spell more than most was being substituted at halftime against Bayer Leverkusen back in November. That change made it clear Pep wasn't happy with his performance that day, and reinforced the feeling that Bobb still hasn't fully taken advantage of the chances he's had. Not for lack of quality, but perhaps for lack of consistency and confidence. To complete the picture, Bobb has also had physical problems. Since the injury suffered in the League Cup win against Brentford in December, he hasn't played again for City. His absence from important matches and even from the trip to Norway for a Champions League commitment only fueled the rumors about a possible exit. Asked about the situation, Pep Guardiola, as he often does, kept his words to a minimum. He confirmed nothing, denied nothing, and left everything open. Meanwhile, other clubs began to move. Fulham have been the quickest and most decisive so far. The proposal on the table shows they see Bobb not just as a punt, but as a player capable of taking on a leading role. In an environment with less pressure, less competition, and more room to make mistakes and learn, the Norwegian could grow a lot. For Fulham, it would be a leap in quality. For Bobb, a real chance to play regularly. Beyond Fulham, Borussia Dortmund are also watching the situation closely. The German club have a clear history of backing young talents, giving them minutes, confidence, and then selling later for even bigger fees. It isn't hard to imagine Bobb fitting that model. For now, though, the English side seemed to be a step ahead in the negotiations. From Manchester City's perspective, the equation is complex. The club have already spent heavily in this January window, bringing in Antoine Semenyo and also Marc Guehi, which has significantly increased the outlay. With several injuries in the squad and a need to keep finances balanced, a $35 million sale would help a lot, not only financially, but also strategically, freeing up squad space and allowing adjustments in other areas. It's important to be clear. Internally, Bobb is still well regarded. This isn't about a complete loss of faith in the player. It's much more a combination of context, timing, and market opportunity. Sometimes, for a young player, leaving is the best route to come back stronger in the future, either for City themselves or to build a solid career at another top club. And that is exactly what makes this potential transfer so interesting to follow. It isn't only about numbers or cold negotiations, but about career decisions, sporting planning, and reading the landscape. City need to think about the now. Bobb needs to think about his own development. And Fulham see a rare market opportunity. So the question for you, City fan, is direct and simple. Does selling Oscar Bobb for $35 million make sense right now, or should the club persist more with his development inside Pep's squad? This possible Oscar Bobb exit also needs to be analyzed within a bigger context that goes far beyond a single player. Manchester City are at a point in the season where every decision carries double the weight. It isn't just about selling or not selling, but about how the squad is being reshaped to face a decisive phase, both in the Premier League and in Europe. And that is exactly where the club's other recent moves begin to connect clearly. Right after the derby defeat against Manchester United, a match that left obvious marks on the club's mood, Pep Guardiola was quite direct when talking about the need to strengthen the squad, not in a tone of panic, but with the cold clarity of someone who understands that at the highest level, ignoring problems costs titles. The defense had been struggling, the options were limited, and injuries began to pile up at a critical moment in the campaign. The absences of Joško Gvardiol and Ruben Dias completely changed City's defensive picture. Up to that draw against Chelsea in early January, the club were still trying to manage the situation with internal solutions. But from that point on, it became clear that improvisation would not be enough. The lack of depth at the back began to compromise not only performance, but also the team's security in big matches. It was in that context that the signing of Marc Guehi happened. The 25-year-old center-back arrived from Crystal Palace in a move that was quick, precise, and above all, well-timed. City took advantage of the fact Guehi was entering the final months of his contract and managed to complete the deal for around $20 million, a figure seen as well below what the market usually demands for a defender of that level. Pep didn't hide his satisfaction. For him, Guehi arrived at exactly the right moment. A ready-made player, experienced in the Premier League, an international, and capable of playing on either the right or left side of the back line. More than that, someone who comes with a strong mentality, used to pressure, and willing to take responsibility immediately. When Pep talks about a salary of around $300,000 a week, the message goes far beyond the numbers. He makes it clear that in certain situations, the cost is justified by the impact. With a thin squad, fixtures piling up, and the title race getting tighter, City needed someone who could come in and fix problems, not another long-term project in that specific area. And the recent results help explain that urgency. City still haven't won in the Premier League in 2026. There have been draws against Sunderland, Chelsea, and Brighton, followed by a painful derby defeat at Old Trafford. 7 points behind Arsenal, the margin for error has practically disappeared. Every slip now carries enormous weight, both in the table and in the group's confidence. Guehi arrives precisely to help stop the bleeding. The expectation is that he brings immediate leadership to the defense, organization, and more aggression in duels. All indications are that his debut should come at the Etihad against Wolves, in a match that already feels like a must-win, not only for the points, but for the need to give the fans a clear response after the derby. And this is where everything starts to link up with the possible Oscar Bobb exit. City aren't just buying or selling players randomly. There's a clear logic. The clubs spend heavily where they need immediate impact, and at the same time, weigh strategic exits in positions where there is excess or where the financial return can help maintain balance. Bobb, unfortunately for him, ends up fitting into that second group, with Semenyo taking up space, with other options available, and with the need to generate funds. The sale starts to be seen as a natural part of the club's machine. It's not an emotional decision, it's structural. But Manchester City don't live only off decisions for the present, and that becomes even clearer when you look at the quiet work the club continued to do with the future in mind. While the first team deal with pressure, a packed calendar, and demands for immediate results, the scouting department keep working at a different pace, focused on what comes next. In that long-term planning, Troyes are taking on an increasingly relevant role. The French club, which is part of the same group, has become a key piece in developing young talents, and according to recent information, two names in particular are being closely monitored: Mathys Détourbe and Christ Badola. Détourbe is 18, a winger born in Troyes, and has been standing out consistently. He isn't just quick or skillful, but someone who makes good decisions, contributes directly to goals, and shows personality despite his age. This season, his performances have attracted attention not only from City, but also from clubs like PSG, Marseille, and Monaco. The difference is that City don't just think about signing. The plan is to control the process. The idea is to allow Détourbe to keep developing in the right environment without skipping steps. If Troyes earn promotion to League One, that would be even better, offering a higher competitive level without the immediate pressure of the Premier League. As for Christ Badola, only 16, he is seen as an even rawer talent, but extremely promising. He has already made his first-team debut, has above-average physicality for his age, and a maturity that impresses those who follow him closely. However, there is no rush at all. He can't even move to England before 2028, and that isn't a problem for City. If anything, it fits the club's philosophy. That planning model helps explain why City can stay at the top for so long. While many clubs react to the market, City anticipate it. While some spend out of immediate necessity, City try to balance present impact with future building. And it's exactly that combination that sustains the project. At the end of the day, when you put all these pieces together, it starts to make sense. The potential sale of Oscar Bobb, the arrival of Marc Guéhi, the heavy January investment, and the monitoring of young players at Troyes aren't isolated moves. They're parts of the same strategy, designed to keep Manchester City competitive now and strong for the coming years. Nothing guarantees titles, nothing eliminates risk, but what becomes clear is that there is a plan. And in a football landscape that gets more chaotic every year, that makes a difference. If you liked this complete analysis, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to keep following all the news, behind-the-scenes updates, and decisions involving Manchester City. Your support is vital for the channel to grow and to keep bringing you quality content every day.